everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Holly. I thought I'd talk to you in this week's video about the travel journal that I kept on my recent excursion to Scotland, documenting the trip. This is the first time that I have taken a tiny, and to me, passport size is very tiny, notebook on my adventures. I'm always pretty good about writing every day in a journal whenever I take particularly a long trip, but I'm not very good at travel journaling with ephemera once I get home. I collect the ephemera on the trip, and then by the time I get home weeks and weeks later and sit down with my journal, the time has passed and I'm not interested really in doing the journaling anymore. So I wind up throwing away the ephemera, and it's really kind of frustrating. To avoid all that, this time the idea was to journal as I went. I put together a great little travel kit, and every night to take a little time before bed and do daily journaling in this little passport journal that I bought specifically for this trip. Well, that lasted about 3 days before I was either too tired or too busy to do the daily journaling that I had planned. I did manage to complete the little passport journal. I'm so proud of myself, guys. I'm so proud of myself. I thought I'd share the flip through of that with you today. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look. I bought this little passport cover from Galen Leather, and the little tag says, "Not all those who wander are lost." That's a quote by J.R.R. Tolkien that I thought was particularly appropriate for a travel journal. And my little necklace charm, that's actually a typewriter key. This is the insert that I used. It was just a plain cream-colored passport-size Travelers Company notebook insert. This piece of art is from the back of a card that I purchased on the trip by an artist, a digital artist known as Kath Waters, and I thought it was particularly pretty, so I stuck it on the front there with some washi tape after I watercolored the front with some purple watercolors. The watercolors that I took on the trip were great. I did actually, that was one of like the 7 things that I wound up using on the trip. I did not put this together until after I got back. And I've attributed her digital collage on the front to Kath Waters there. And got my opening page. These are those vinyl stickers that you get in souvenir shops. Then I cut this off of the front of the packaging that came in. This is a washi tape that I had on hand, and I watercolored that page as well. This is again another one of those vinyl stickers. I got this stamp here, Keep This Record stamp. I got this in a subscription box. It was really cool because it came in this old Kodak film canister, and they put the stamp on the end. I thought that was neat, so of course I had to use it. This sticker on the back too is a set of film canister stickers that came in that same subscription box, and they're all different. Well, I think there are 2 of each one, but I thought that was cool and had to incorporate that as well. This is off the front of a business card, and this is off a postcard of Edinburgh. And these guys make custom kilts. This is the date of our trip. And this is the before picture of me and my friend Lori as we are leaving Dallas for London Heathrow Airport. These stamps throughout, most of these stamps are going to be from the Everyday Explorers collection. They have some fantastic travel related kind of stamps. So those are a lot of fun, and I utilize those throughout. This was my first breakfast in Edinburgh. We got room service because I was so exhausted. I didn't even want to go out that morning or go downstairs to the cafe. So I had ordered room service, which is like, for me, room service is like the ultimate luxury when you're on a trip. So great. So they delivered a paper with my room service, so I took a look at the newspaper for the morning. It was just a great morning. This was actually stuff that I journaled the night after. So at this point, I was day 1 and day 2, I managed to journal like I had planned. But I had a full Scottish breakfast, and I've got it all broken down here in the photo in case anybody's curious as to what is involved in a full Scottish breakfast. And by the way, haggis is part, of course, it is part of a full Scottish breakfast. We stayed our first night in the Scotsman Hotel in Edinburgh. That was my night view. These pictures, a lot of these photos I printed off right then and there on my little Canon Ivy printer. That was handy to have. A lot of these pictures though, the color seemed very, very green. But it is nice that you can print out teeny tiny photos on that Canon Ivy if you do the collages. We, of course, ventured out the second day in Edinburgh on a hop-on, hop-off bus tour. One of the places that we stopped, of course, was Edinburgh Castle. My friend really wanted to see good examples of castles, and Edinburgh Castle is outstanding. I had been there before. It has a lot to see and do on the grounds. I tore a lot of stuff out of the newspaper for this day on the weather. This was the ticket for the city sightseeing bus, the hop-on, hop-off tour, which I would recommend if the city offers something like that, that you take it and ride it all the way around at least once to kind of see. And of course they have the audio tour telling you about the sites as you're passing them. And then you can kind of understand where you might want to stop on the second lap. This is a picture of one of the statues in front of, I think it was the Great Hall, and one of the stained glass windows there that I just did as kind of a tip-in. There with some washi tape, and again, one of those Everyday Explorer stamps. I had to purchase an umbrella because I'd left my umbrella. Of course, I'd left my umbrella back at the hotel. That evening, we had tickets for a haunted Edinburgh graveyard and vaults, underground vaults tour. They took us through Greyfriars Cemetery, which is quite famous, and into those underground vaults. That was exciting. I don't know if it was all that spooky, but it was really cool. And they did talk about some of the darker aspects of the city, which is always kind of cool to hear. This is a receipt for some tam o' shanterns. Am I saying that right? Tam o' shanter. I can't say it. This is a receipt for the one souvenir my niece asked me to bring back for her. It was a tam o' shantern, or a tammy hat. The ones, you know, that have the little bubble on the top of them that people wear while they're golfing. She's big into golf. She golfs for her middle school team. And that was the one thing she asked me to bring back for her. And I was not able to find one. I looked everywhere. And sure enough, in the gift shop across from our hotel, after scouring the city the entire day for these dang tammy hats, I found them in the gift store across from our hotel. So I bought two because they were on sale. And I bought one for myself and one for my niece. That's a picture of me in my hotel room with one of them on. I did that as kind of like a little flip with the picture on the other side. And then that evening it was, as they say, pissing down rain so hard. My shoes were not waterproof enough at that point. So coming back from the haunted tour, I stopped in a restaurant called Bread Meets Bread and got some takeaway, and they had the most amazing, it just looks so gross in this picture. They were kimchi fries. Holy crap, they were so good. They stunk up my hotel room, which was very schwanky, by the way. Stunk up my hotel room so much that I couldn't sleep. So I had to empty the tiny refrigerator, cram it back in the plastic bag, the leftovers, and stick it in the tiny refrigerator and open all the windows so that I could sleep. And then I had to remember to take them out of the tiny fridge, put back in all of the very expensive alcoholic beverages that I'd had to take out to make room for the kimchi fry leftovers, take them out and throw them away. The fries were totally worth the trouble. The following day we were picked up by our driver. His name was James and he was lovely. He talked non-stop for 5 days. 4 or 5 days, non-stop, I'm telling you. We stopped at Linlithgow Palace, which was the birthplace of Mary, Queen of Scots. And this poor woman, she might have been royalty, but holy crap, she went through it, man. Her life was freaking hard. It was hard. We saw the Kelpies. That was one of the things that I really wanted to see, were these great big sculptures that they erected in 2014 along this series of canals. And the Kelpies are, if you're not familiar with the mythology, they are waterborne, shape-changing type creatures. And a lot of the times they take the form of horses. But these statues were incredible. And we're standing in front of just the maquettes, the prototypes that they used and traveled around with. Dunkeld Cathedral was really neat. It's a very small, I would consider it more of a parish church than a cathedral, but it was lovely. And there was a woman who was practicing on the big pipe organ there. So we got treated to a small concert and the acoustics were amazing. I've got video of it. It was incredible. She could play. Then I have some more pictures of food, because who doesn't love pictures of food? Had a hot cross bun and a coffee at this little So Strawberry Cafe in Linlithgow, just down the street from the palace. There was a place we stopped at Queensferry where I got some, oh my gosh, it was melted camembert cheese with caramelized onions and candied pecans, and then it was served with like a baguette, and I had a really nice ale to go with it. Oh, it was delicious. But camembert is definitely like one of those cheeses that has, it's to some people it would be categorized as a stinky cheese, but I think it's delicious. So another one of those vinyl stickers there, and my attempt at a very Claude Monet style heather with the watercolors. Oh yes, green and purple blobs. Green and purple blobs. That's just a little paper clip that I slapped on there. Picture of Edinburgh Castle. Some stickers, and again those stamps from Everyday Explorers. Now right about here I stopped journaling every day, as was the original plan, and the rest of this was more or less assembled when I got home. So this is where it started to skew out of chronological order. This is James, our driver. He was great. He's sitting on a bench. This is on the Isle of Skye. He's sitting on his favorite bench, oceanside view there of the bay. Just before we reach Portree, there is a fish and chip shop, a chippy, right across the street. That is his favorite fish and chip shop there. So we stopped and got a picture on his favorite bench. And then we went to the capital of the Isle of Skye. It's a little town called Portree. They've got maybe 2,500 people there as residents. It's very small. The Isle of Skye definitely has more sheep than people, but it is super scenic even in the off season when things aren't quite greened up as much as they're going to be later on in the season. But we didn't have to fight any crowds or anything, which was really nice because I'm not a peoply kind of person. I can get peopled out pretty quickly. Stirling Castle, on our little ticket for the tour of Stirling Castle. Again, me noting the fact that the museum cafe was the best museum cafe I've ever been to. I had an authentic haggis and root vegetable meat pie. It was delicious. Guys, I probably had haggis like 5 times in various dishes while I was in Scotland. I don't mind it. I think it can taste really gross, but all of the haggis that I had was really good. This is just a little setup that I made to remind of our stay in Stirling. I would go back and stay several days in Stirling. There is so much there to see, and it is a lovely, lovely little town. But I have this done as a little slide pocket in that tea that was available in our hotel room. Oh my gosh, the bed and breakfast we stayed in, the Victoria Square. It's attached to a restaurant there called the Orangery. It was the most amazing little bed and breakfast. Oh my gosh, the room I stayed in, I'm like, can I really afford this? This feels too expensive. Are you sure this is still within my budget? But it was amazing. Again, traveling in what isn't the peak of tourist season is the way to go. My observations on tea, I put as a little tip in on this little card. And this is a part of the map that shows our bed and breakfast where we were located. The staff there was wonderful. This is the layout, and Lori said it was okay for me to use this series of pictures. I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway, was her haggis experience. This is cut out. I didn't draw this. I wish I had drawn this, but this was actually off the front of a bag that had some postcards in it that I purchased at a gift shop. I can't remember where. Maybe it was at the Kelpies gift shop, but I just tore it off and pasted it in here. We stopped at a pub, walked to a pub in Stirling called Number 2 Baker Street. The bar was really warm and welcoming and not crowded at all. Bar. I called it a bar. Sorry, pub. They had, as part of one of their appetizers, deep fried haggis. So we sat down and we ordered some drinks and deep fried haggis, and this is where I gave Lori a hard time and was like, oh my God, you have to try haggis. You have to try it. You don't have to like it, but you have to try it. You're in Scotland. Come on. When else are you going to have an opportunity to try cuisine that is so specific to an area? She did not want to, but she was very, very brave. It was really good. I had it with a beer called Old Speckled Hen. That was delicious. And this is a series of pictures. This is her before trying haggis. This is her considering spitting it out after she's put it in her mouth. And this is her reconsidering our friendship as a result. Now she can say she tried haggis. She did not want to eat any more of it though afterwards. She's a good sport. This is just a couple of receipts and some little photos from the postcards that I purchased and flyers that I picked up at those little stands at convenience stores and places we stopped, you know, where they have the whole display of tourist information and brochures. That's always a fun way to get some pictures. Whenever I travel, particularly if it's overseas, I always try to purchase a piece of artwork done by a local artist. And this time I came home with a watercolor. This gentleman, this artist, was actually sitting outside of a gift shop at the bottom of the hill as we exited from Edinburgh Castle, and he was painting on the spot. And he really had several lovely little tiny little watercolors, very small, and I purchased one from the actual artist. We had fish and chips on the Isle of Skye, which is where this photo's from, and where this photo of the grave of Flora MacDonald in Culinary Cemetery. This is actually the newer monument to Flora MacDonald. She's the one that disguised Bonnie Prince Charlie after his defeat at Culloden, disguised him as a woman and rode him by boat to the Isle of Skye, where he caught a ship to France and escaped, captured by the English, and he never returned to Scotland again. But she lived a long life. They imprisoned her in the Tower of London because she assisted him, and they found out about it. They released her eventually. She lived a long life afterwards. But this is the crucifix, not the crucifix, but the cross at the top from the original headstone. And it was blown over and broken in a gale, and they just let it lie where it was and replaced it with the newer monument. She was an amazing woman. This is in Oban. They are a little town, a little coastal town. I had some of the best squid there. Man, I talk about food a lot. But I had some of the best food there. I went to get fish and chips, walked from our hotel to get another sampling of fish and chips here because it's a coastal town. They're gonna have the best fish. So I walked one evening from the hotel to the chip shop in town, and I ordered fish and chips with curry sauce. Delicious, highly recommend. And an order of squid cut into rings. We'd call it calamari. Well, when I got back to the hotel and popped the box open, I was like, oh no, they gave me onion rings. Oh no, because they were so big. I'd never seen, I'm used to tiny rubber bands, basically, as calamari that they serve here in the States in most places. These were enormous, and they were so delicious. They were like coated in panko and fried. Oh my God. It was amazing. There's no comparison at all to the squid that we get here. We did a whiskey distillery tour and tasting, and we did it in the morning. I think our tour started at like 10 maybe? Started at 10. So by the time we got done, oh my God, I was totally like hammered when we got done. And I bought some whiskey to bring home, the Distillers edition as a souvenir. This is in sterling as well. This was up against the Old Town wall, and there is you can't really see it because the weeds, the bracken is covering it, but there's a shield at the foot of this little sword, and there's no indicator as to what this signifies, but I'm assuming this is like a claymore. And considering that if you continue to walk straight up the street, there is a statue to Rob Roy McGregor, that this might hold some sort of significance for him. I wrote here, do you know how to tell if a place is a college town? There's at least one monument of historical significance defaced with a funny hat or a road cone, which I thought was really funny. This is the Isle of Skye. Again, another one of those vinyl stickers that I love. And we found a telephone booth, one of those red telephone booths in the wild on the Isle of Skye, just in the middle of nowhere. So we had to stop and take pictures and get in the phone booth. We visited the Fairy Glen on the Isle of Skye, where they have these mounds. They're very cone-like mounds that have these strange ridges that form rings around them naturally, and they are considered fairy mounds, and they call this area the Fairy Glen. And while we were up there, it started to snow and sleet. This is inside of the Stirling Castle. They had a few actors there that were talking about the history of the castle. This also in Stirling. Can you tell I really enjoyed Stirling? This was actually in Edinburgh. This is the oldest surviving building in Edinburgh. It's inside of Edinburgh Castle. It's St. Margaret's Chapel. I left this page fairly undecorated because this is Kilchrist Cemetery, and it's an old church, abandoned church there. It's just ruins at this point. But the picture that I got from it that day was so beautiful. It looked like a postcard, and they had daffodils blooming there in the churchyard amongst the graves. And you can see the water is so blue in the distance. So it deserved its own page. The Commando Memorial, they're also on the Isle of Skye. We went to many, many castles. You cannot throw a rock without hitting a castle in Scotland. So this is another really good example of a castle that has been refurbished over hundreds of years. The Eilean Donnan Castle. It's on a little bitty island. This is the remains of an abbey. All that's still standing is the bell tower and the graveyard there. This is the Wallace Monument to William Wallace, recognizing his contribution to independence from England. It is beautifully situated on a very high hill just outside of Stirling proper. It looked from a distance like the Olympic torch because of the crown spire being really spiky like that. It resembled flames, so it looked like the Olympic torch standing all on its own on a hill overlooking where you could see the Battle of Stirling Bridge, which is where Wallace defeated a much larger English force. That is another one of those everyday explorer stamps. This is just some ephemera for the flight home, you know, tickets and luggage tags and such. Again, a couple more of those stamps, a little paper clip that looks like an airplane. I love these paper clips. Those are fun. Those are Midori products. This is some photos of some tags from some souvenirs that I purchased. That's the whiskey and whiskey chocolates that I bought in Oban at the Oban Distillery. Just a little receipt for my dog being boarded. And then I like to include at the very back, just very sloppy, you can see the general itinerary from the trip and what happened on which day. Especially since at a certain point I no longer was keeping this in chronological order. That's it, guys. That's the flip through for my travel journal to Scotland in the passport size traveler's notebook. I think overall I enjoyed putting this together. It's very low stakes journaling because it is so small. That's one of the things I liked about it. Because it is so small, it's easy to do, easy to fill up very quickly with just a couple of pieces of ephemera or stamps and a little bit of writing on each page. I did like that quite a bit. And then I have my regular journal to fall back on if I need to remember some of the other details that weren't captured in here. But I did enjoy this. Again, it didn't really work out like I had planned to journal as I went, but I still am very happy that I managed to complete one small insert. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time. Bye now.